Hey, everybody, welcome back. Today we are discussing the very interesting and important topic of the stages of grieving or healing. And these break down to 5 or 7 steps depending on the system you're using, but we're going to use the 7-step system. And this is actually how you determine when an emotion is truly healed. So there's actually a way to see if you've kind of worked with it, but it's not totally healed or not. And I actually think this is a game changer because a lot of people are working with emotions. And what happens is if you work with an emotion, then you don't get to the root of it, it tends to come back, just like weeding a garden. If you pluck the top off a weed and you don't get the roots, it keeps growing back. The same with emotion. So I'll teach you a technique to find the origin of it. But once you've found the origin of it, you can find if you've done the right steps to actually complete the healing journey with it. And this is crucial. So let's start there. The 5 stages of healing were developed by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She did a lot of research on death and dying, and she created these first 5 steps. The last 2 were created by Barbara Brennan, and it kind of brings us to the full healing spiral. So let me dive in and share those with you. So the first stage is, I think, the most important stage to understand. It's denial. So when we're in denial, we tend to be unconscious about something. We could have a lot of people coming up to us, a lot of feedback from our life saying, hey, I think you have some anger. Hey, I think you may not be over the death of your loved one. And you're like, no, I'm fine. It's fine. I don't know why everyone keeps bothering me about this. And so you're getting all this feedback and internal things that you're repressing, and you're just really not ready to look at it. And that's okay. We can't deal with all our emotional issues at the same time. Sometimes we just don't have the bandwidth, and that's fine. When you're not ready to work with something, you're not ready to work with something. And it'll come up in its own way, in its own time. It will present itself when you're ready. So, we don't need to force the issue on someone else or on ourselves. If it's not time, it's not time. So I like to trust that piece. But denial is an important stage of the journey because it's sort of before the even journey begins. And it tends to be where we'll start to experience health symptoms or just the same thing happening over and over again. Our energy feels lethargic or blocked. And that's because of these issues that we're sort of in denial on. So as you become more masterful at working with emotions and people start to give you feedback like, ooh, I think that you might, actually have an abandonment issue here, the way you treated your dog when she did that. And when you're more attuned emotionally, you'll take that hint and you'll say, that's maybe something for me to look at, instead of being like, no, that's not mine. Take a look at it. And so that's kind of how we start to be more conscious and to allow this journey to be more smooth for us. All right, stage 2 is anger. That's what it's called, at least in most systems. I like to call it expression. So sometimes it comes out as anger, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it comes as crying. It doesn't really matter. What basically happened, it's like a cork being popped off. Like all of a sudden something comes from being in total denial, like, oh my God, I never realized how much abandonment issues I had. And all of a sudden I'm feeling abandoned all the time and I'm angry about it, or I'm afraid of everything, or all of a sudden this emotion feels raw and huge and like all over the place. And it's where we're really feeling the emotion, sometimes for the first time. So this is an important stage, and it's important to let the feelings happen, to let them flow, to let them rip. There's nothing wrong with feeling and with expression. In fact, that's what the emotion is craving at that point. So that's an important stage as well. Well, all of them are. Stage 3 tends to be the stickiest one, and I want to impart this on you deeply. So this is bargaining. Bargaining is so interesting. It's where we know we have an issue, but we think we can just kind of throw something at it and it'll be okay. It's like a tit for tat situation. The great example of bargaining is dieting. So a lot of people use these fad diets, change their food, change their exercise, do all this, don't lose any weight. Why? Because they're ignoring the deeper emotional issue that they probably know they have, which is that they're like stuffing their emotions down. They're eating for various reasons. They have baggage. They're codependent on someone. There's these other underlying issues, and they're thinking, oh, I have this symptom of an emotion that I can change by changing my diet. And you can change your body through diet, no doubt, but not if you're actually trying to you're in bargain around an emotion. I actually also see a lot in my practice. I saw a lot of people in the AA programs stuck in bargaining, and I love those programs. But I just want you to watch for that if you're working with addiction as well, because people tend to say, "Oh, if I just go to an AA meeting, I won't be drinking anymore," and that's what I want. But you can feel there's this like pent up pressure about it. It doesn't feel totally healed. It feels like a bargain. Like if I do this, then I won't do this. If I do this, then I won't do this. And it's this constant like reaction and playing off each other. And that's not what we want. It's playing up the polarity. We want actually acceptance. That's when we start healing, and that's stage 5, and I will get there. Let's all take a deep breath. I'm talking really fast. Stage 4 is depression. So depression isn't always depression. Depression can be lethargy. Depression can be stuck energy. Depression, typically we actually know what the issue is. Like, oh, I'm just so sick of dealing with this. I don't know what to do. I've tried everything. I've bargained, I've dieted, I've gone to AA, I've talked to my therapist, I've done all the things I could do, but I still can't figure out what this needs. And that, that's an okay place to be. You're aware of it, you're trying. But I'll give you some tools about how to actually move from depression to acceptance. So once we finally get to acceptance, that's the healing zone. The first 4 stages, you can bounce between them. You can go from anger to bargaining to depression, back to bargaining. So it's not necessarily linear, but once you do make it to acceptance, there's really no going back because you're in that healing zone. And acceptance is the place where you're like, okay, I see what this is, and I am prepared to accept it. I accept myself with this issue. I accept it all. And it's where that polarity, that tension, that fighting against really drops away. And that's the space where we can actually start to heal. So then stage 6 is light emerging. So when we are in the creation process of creating our new life, we are having a little bit of the old, a little bit of the new. It's like the image I always get is like light shining through leaves, and there's darkness and there's light and they're speckled together, and we're working with it all. We're working with some of the shadows, we're working with some of the light, we're moving towards the light, we're creating the new life. And stage 7 is creation of new light. It's when all of the residuals of that pattern have really left, and we're in a new creation zone. It's that spiral of healing. And there will always be a next issue. There will always be something else to work with in this journey of transformation. So we keep spiraling. And so that's the 7 steps. And then you'll go back to them and start again. So that's the 7 stages of healing. So I would like you to today bring forward one issue that came up as I was describing those 7 stages that you would like to work with. And I will jump into some of the techniques that we'll work with in the next video. But for now, I want you to know a couple things. With each emotional issue, we go through this process. So for something like a divorce or a death or any big issue in your life, there's likely an entanglement of many issues, maybe 15, 20, who knows how many, 4. But each of these issues gets to go through that whole process. And one of the big pieces to remember is that we go back to the root of that issue. To make sure that it's totally cleared. And that's a really important stage of the process too. So we will learn to untangle these traumas and find that some of the traumas may go way back. Some of them may go back to our past lover. Some of them may go back to yesterday. And we just go back to the root and we work with them through forgiveness, acceptance, compassion, and then shifting the emotional energy in our body, which is what these next videos will be about. So I'd like you to just take a moment and journal about what your issue is that you're coming with, that we're going to start working with. in the next video, because I just want you to get clear, and I would like you to sense what stage you're in. So get start to use your intuition. I'll show you some tools to tap into this, but I'd like you to just feel where you are. Maybe you totally know, and that's great. But write that down so you're ready for tomorrow, and just set the intention for it to heal, and we'll get through it. Okay. See you soon.